Practicing ethical decision-making should be a primary concern for everyone in business, from the CEO on down. Two important concerns you are likely to encounter in your career are moral hazard and ethical dilemmas. Risk and reward are fundamental concepts in business, and they need to stay connected for two vital reasons. First, without the possibility of financial reward, few companies or entrepreneurs would accept the financial risks involved in creating goods and services and marketing them to the public. And without businesses willing to accept risk, little would get done in the economy. The second reason that the risk associated with business decisions needs to stay attached to those decisions is to encourage smart and responsible decision-making. If individuals and companies believe they can pursue rewards without facing the risks that should be attached to those pursuits, they are more likely to engage in irresponsible or even illegal behavior, a situation known as moral hazard. When there is a healthy connection between risk and reward, a company making a decision stands to benefit from the decision if the outcome is positive, and suffer the consequences if the outcome is negative. If the link between risk and reward is broken, however, the company still stands to benefit from a positive outcome, but someone else suffers the consequences of a negative outcome. In extreme cases, moral hazard can damage the entire economy, such as when the subprime mortgage crisis triggered the Great Recession in 2008. Moral hazard is not a simple matter and often involves government regulations and the intricacies of the national or even global financial system, but it deserves the attention of all business leaders. When the question of what is right and what is wrong is clear, ethical decisions are easy to make. You simply choose to do the right thing. If you choose the wrong course, such as cheating on your taxes or stealing from your employer, you commit an ethical lapse. The choices were clear, and you made the wrong one. However, you will encounter situations in which choices are not so clear. An ethical dilemma is a situation in which you must choose between conflicting but arguably valid options, or a situation in which all your options are unpleasant. For example, if you accept money from investors to start a company, you have an ethical obligation to protect those funds and maximize the return for those investors. However, you also have an obligation to your employees to offer them fair wages and to your customers to offer quality products at fair prices. These various stakeholder interests are sometimes at odds, which can require you to make tough ethical decisions about resource allocation and other matters. When you face an ethical dilemma, keep the following points in mind to help find the best possible solution. Make sure you frame the situation accurately, taking into account all relevant issues and questions. Identify all parties who might be affected by your decision, and consider the rights of everyone involved. Be as objective as possible. Don't make a decision just to protect your own emotions, and don't automatically assume you're viewing a situation fairly and objectively. Don't assume that other people think the way you do. The golden rule of treating others the way you want to be treated can cause problems when others don't want to be treated the same way you do. Watch out for conflicts of interest, situations in which competing loyalties can lead to ethical lapses. For instance, if you are in charge of selecting an advertising agency to handle your company's next campaign, you would have an obvious conflict of interest if your spouse or partner works for one of the agencies under consideration. You can also use one or more decision-making models, each of which frames ethical dilemmas in a particular way. With the justice framework, you aim to treat people equally or at least fairly in a way that makes rational and moral sense. With utilitarianism, you choose the option that delivers the most good for the most people or protects the most people from a negative outcome. With the individual rights approach, to the greatest possible extent, you respect the rights of all individuals, particularly their right to control their own destinies. With the individual responsibilities approach, you focus on the ethical duties of the individuals involved in the situation. With the common good model, you emphasize qualities and conditions that benefit the community as a whole, such as peace and public safety. With the virtue framework, you emphasize desirable character traits such as integrity and compassion. Resolving ethical dilemmas can be challenging, but by taking a mindful approach, you improve the odds of making the best possible decision for everyone involved.